Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. What's new in VAPS, VPS, and VJS for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central? My name is Martin. I'm CEO and co-owner of NETRONIC Software, and I cordially welcome you to this webinar in which I want to give you an update on what our development team has been working on the last 3 months and what we already finalized and submitted to Microsoft for app source approval and what is already in app source. So we have a pretty packed agenda today. I see that somebody raises his hand. Not sure why. So before I get started, a little bit of housekeeping. You're all on mute, and this is like always in webinars. We don't want to get disturbed by unwanted background noises. So if you have a question, then please use the GoToWebinar chat pane. When I'm on PowerPoint slides, I will more or less answer the question directly. When I'm in demo mode, I don't see the pop-up notification that you ask a question. So then I kindly ask you to wait until I return from my demo environment back to GoToWebinar or to PowerPoint so that I see the pop-up notification. If there are questions unanswered during the course of this meeting, then I will definitively answer them at the very end of this GoToWebinar, which I assume will take us roughly 45 minutes. With this, let's get it going, and let's get it going. And this is the slide that I always kind of put up first in webinars in which I talk about new things that we did on the products. We follow a very, very strict process of continuously enhancing our products. So we ship very regularly new product versions of all of our 3 extensions for Business Central, of the VPS, of the VJS, and the VAPS. You see, we are now on the 12th version with the VPS and VJS, with a product where we started 2 years ago, and we are on the 7th version with the VAPS, a product that we started beginning of last year. So this is, I think, quite outstanding. Also from an ISV perspective, we are quite keen on enhancing the products, and we are quite keen on enhancing them in a way that this always complies with kind of the latest and brightest Business Central, and that is also always like approved by Microsoft for App Store. So whenever we release a version here, then this does not mean that we just finish a development sprint or a development cycle, but this also means that we take whatever we built here and go to Microsoft again and submit it for app source approval. Just as a side note, because this webinar is meant to be on our extensions for Business Central, most of you know that we also have add-ins for Dynamics Nav, and also those add-ins, especially the VPS and the VJS, they are continuously enhanced, and we just a couple of days ago released a new version of the VPS for Dynamics Nav. So if you are a customer who is on Nav and who is unsure to make the move to Business Central, then we definitively have a product for you. And this product is not like end of life or anything like this. This product is not only maintained, it is further developed. So we just shipped a release for the VPS for Navision with, I think, more than 10 new features and functionalities. Likewise, if you're a partner who has customers who are on Nav and who struggle with production planning, show them the VPS for Nav. This is much better than planning on Excel. It is much better than just purely planning with Navision. So this is also something that where we continuously invest and make sure that the investments of you or of your customers, that they are absolutely safe and secure. So we not only spend time and money on enhancing the Business Central extensions, but we also have the same commitment for our add-ins for Dynamics Nav. So whenever we ship a new version of our extensions for Business Central, then They include 4 things, and 3 things are quite common. This has been since we did this. So of course there is always bug fixes. There is always some internal work that we do, some internal housekeeping, improvement of performance or stability, code correction. So always these little things um, that are not a feature, but that make the product like fluid and good. And then, of course, like every release comes with new features and functions. And then what we started in April, so with the previous release, is that we said, okay, we make our products extensible or extensions extensible. So now um, VPS, VJS, and VAPS, they all have a documented API, and this API is going to grow with every release we ship. And so now, when we build new product, we either kind of make these, let's say, internal work, or we provide new functions that they are meant for customers, or we provide new events and objects on the API. They are meant for partners so that you as a partner can build extensions based on our extension to make the user experience more, let's say, individualized and more customized for your customer without losing the upgradability of the overall extension. And every time we release such a version, we go to Microsoft, get the App Source recertification so that whenever we meet here in these webinars, everything that I show you is already on App Source, which is the case right now. And all our extensions are available for all Business Central versions. So they are all available from Business Central version 14 to the latest Business Central 18. So right now we are in a cycle, and we keep on having a cycle of developing or of issuing a new version per quarter. So this is now, I show you what we did in the second quarter of the year. And of course, at the end of the third quarter, we have a new version. Go to Microsoft. Once it's on App Source, we do a webinar. So there will be another webinar like this definitively in October. And as we keep like these quite short-termed development cycles, we are always open to hear your ideas, and sometimes there are opportunities that we can kind of um, slot in your ideas into the next or the release after that. So sometimes we are quite flexible there. So whenever you have an idea, whenever you have a thought, please let me know or let your NETRONIC counterpart know, and then they will let me know, and then we discuss, and we make it part of our plan and roadmap. And with events and objects, we now have much more flexibility in terms of bringing ideas, or much more power actually, um, in bringing your ideas into our products. So just as a reminder, and this is something that I spoke about extensively in April. So if you're interested in learning more about how extensions can become extensible and what we did to make our extensions extensible, then please look at the recorded webinar from April. So in essence, it says that we keep on developing our extensions as product that integrate with standard Business Central, but on the other hand, we also make them open so that they get an API that we document, that we keep very stable, and with this API, partners especially can build extensions that base on our extension and hence provide extended or customized user experience. So this is actually quite cool. So on the one hand, you have the visual scheduling product, and on the other hand, this visual scheduling product is increasingly becoming a visual scheduling tool that you can use as an AL developer and build on the API that we are providing you to kind of deliver customized and extended user experience. So if we look at the release that we just shipped end of June, beginning of July. And then this is a list of more or less everything we did, and I excluded the bugs. So, and I excluded whatever we did on stability, but let's look at what we provided in terms of like on the API and what we provided in terms of features. Like in terms of the API, we provided for all products a set of events um, to that are called on before transfer. And I will talk about these events in a minute, so what you can do with them and what they do. But there is a set of new events that they are all called on before transfer, and they kind of hook in with certain Business Central tables and functionality. And we made this consistently across all three products. And then following a demand that we had from a partner and a specific customer, we made the production order due date line, which we have this vertical line in the resource view in the VPS that shows the due date for the production order. We made this line customizable, so you can change the color, you can make it thicker and thinner and stuff like this. So one specific thing on the VPS following like a customer slash partner demand, and the other is like very broad, very big across all three products, and I'll speak about it in a minute. Then in terms of features, there are also like one big set of feature that kind of we did once and applied to all products. So we enhance the search capabilities of the product. So I will show this to you later on in the demo, most likely in the VJS, but then what I will show you in the VJS also applies to the VAPS and the VPS. So we kind of made the visual schedule better searchable and give you more power in terms of quickly finding critical production orders, operations, jobs, resource utilizations, all of this. Then we have two functionality that we build for both of our production scheduling products. So we have a product called VAPS, Visual Advanced Production Scheduler, and VPS. The VPS is the standard drag and drop front end to the production module of Business Central. So it lets you do what you can do with Business Central, but in a graphical way, whereas the VAPS also brings additional and new business logic to Business Central and allows for more complex, more automatic, more advanced production scheduling. So in both of these products, we kind of started to actually close some functional gaps that we had if we look at our products and what you can do with Business Central. So now with both these products, we consider the send ahead quantity and we consider the queue time. So the send ahead quantity is a value that you set on the routing when you define a routing. The queue time is something that you set on a machine center card or on the work center card, and if this is set there, this value now gets taken into account both in VAPS and VPS. Then also following a request that we had from a customer and a partner, we kind of made the links between production order lines, we made them like that you can select via the VAPS setup if you want to show them or if you want to hide them. So if you have like a multi-level BOM with different production order lines, and the one production order line produces a component that is needed for the other production order line, and this production order line again produces a bigger subassembly that is needed for the final assembly. So if you have these things, then we have special links to show these dependent production order lines, where the dependency typically is handled in the reservation entry table. And sometimes if you have a complex BOM, you will see a lot of links, and we had the request that just people do not want to see these links, although we take them into account while scheduling. So it's only like a visual property that we build and nothing that impacts the scheduling behavior. This is what we did for the both production schedulers that we have. Then we have the product called VJS. This is the Visual Job Scheduler, and this is the like an integrated project planning and resource scheduling tool that integrates with the jobs module and the resource planning module. And in addition to providing enhanced search capabilities, we also added the capability to filter on job tasks. So previously you only could filter on jobs. Now we kind of give you the capability to make the filter more granular so that you also can filter on job task. And this was kind of the biggest thing for the VJS in this release. We provide additional distribution logic for job planning lines quantity. And I will show you and explain you in a minute what this is. Then, very important to know, if you're not in Germany or if you're not German speaking and if you're not serving your customers with an English business central. And we changed the way of how we handle language versions. In the past, what we did is we developed our products in English, and then we sent the products or the final product to a translation service that actually was recommended from Microsoft to the ISVs, and then we got like the VAPS, the VPS, and the VJS translated in all those languages that we selected. And then we had like language versions in German, in French, in Italian, in whatever, Chinese, in Japanese, and in all those languages where Business Central is supported. What we recognized, and I kind of also recognized this when I looked at this in German, the translations were in a way, well, some of them were good. Some of them were in a way that you could understand what is meant. Some of them were funny, and some of them were stupid. So overall, this automatic translation kind of, on the one hand, served the need, but on the other hand, it also kind of left a bad impression because it actually made bad use of language. And hence we decided that we only ship what we understand, what we can control, and what we can manage right now. And this is right now, we ship these products in English and in German. But we also made our extensions extensive in a way that now partners can create their own language extensions, and we will provide some documentation how this can work. We tested this with 2 partners, I think in Finland and in Japan, and it worked perfectly fine. I know that this is a bit of work, that we push 2 partners if customers request whatever, a Czech version, a Polish version, an Italian version. But on the other hand, it also makes sure that then the version that you provide to your customers is in proper Spanish, in proper Swedish, in proper Danish, and proper German, and not translated by a translation tool that lacks any kind of context knowledge. So this is something that we also changed this time. And actually for us, it was a lot of work to build the German version. And now we will continue like this. And we also talked to some partners about this who kind of complained about the language quality in the past. And we asked them what would they prefer, a bad automatically translated version from us, or a good English version that they can translate on their own. And I would say 9 out of 10 partners that we asked said that they would opt for a good English version that they can translate on their own. So I assume that should be okay for everybody. Then let's look at some of the features in more details, because these features also have like, it is not just we added a search box, but some of the features have a conceptual component to it, and it is not only, I think it's not only important to know that these features exist, but it is also good to understand what the thinking is behind. And let's first talk about the extensibility. So I said that there is a set of on before transfer events, and like, I'm not a technical person. I'm not a developer. But I understand, and I never would be able to work with these events, but I at least got an understanding what they do and what you can do with them. And the big purpose, or the main purpose of this set of on before transfer events, is that you now can build an extension that delivers custom information or just information from flow fields and flow filters to the VPS, VAPS, and VJS. So in the past, we had these dialogues with which you can kind of customize the tooltip or the bar label. So the text that you see on these boxes that show the operation, or on the left-hand table, you can fully customize this. And this was something that you could customize in the past. However, in the past, all the customization options that you have were on static fields. And like based on the architecture that we selected both for VPS and VJS and for the VAPS, actually it would have been quite tricky to offer flow fields and flow filter information per default in our products. So now what we did is actually we built these events so that you have the chance that before we transfer information to the VAPS, to the VPS or VJS, you can select additional information to be used, for example, on the tooltip, on the bar label, and the table text. So in terms of the VAPS, if you have information in flow field or flow filters on the production node, on the production node line, on the routing line, on the work center group, on the work center, on the machine center, on the sales center and sales line, this would be information that you can send to the VAPS before we transfer the data to the VAPS, so that the information from these tables that are coming from flow fields would be shown either here or here or here. With the VAPS, it is the same set of information or the same tables, with the exception of sales header and sales line, as we have no sales header and sales line information in the VAPS at all. In the VAPS, we have it because we have the sales order view. Then with the VJS, it is like all information, all tables that we need in the VPS is the jobs, the job tasks, the job planning line, the resource group, and the resource. And if you have flow fields in these tables, then the information can be shown going forward in the tooltip, in the bar label, in the table extension, if you make use of these events that we now provide with the version, with the current version, and if you build an extension that builds on our extension. So, and again, in terms of the construct, you building an extension on our extensions, I highly recommend that you have a look at the webinar that we recorded 3 months ago, where I showed you more details on how this could be done. And I also showed you an example of an extension that I built or that my colleagues built on top of the VPS, and that I showed in this webinar. So this is in terms of extensibility. In terms of VAPS and VPS, like the biggest conceptual work, I would say, was on how to consider send ahead quantity. So this was like an ongoing request we used to have also in the old Navision days in the VPS, where we also did not properly consider send ahead quantity. So and now we kind of looked at this. We also had partners whom we consulted on this, and where we kind of came to a conclusion how to best consider send ahead quantity in visual schedulers like the VAPS and the VPS. So first of all, we didn't develop any kind of new fields for it, but we just consider the send ahead quantity information as is provided in the production order routing lines. So if you or your customers work with send ahead quantity in the production order routing lines, then going forward, this is taken into account when scheduling with the VAPS or the VPS. However, we deal with this information that is given in the standard field differently than Business Central does. So we didn't kind of copy, or we didn't apply the Business Central mechanism one-to-one, but we thought of building something that from our experience and also from talking to customers would make more sense. And this means we never will present or calculate a schedule in which an operation looks like being interrupted. And this can happen depending on certain conditions in Business Central, so that you have one operation in Business Central, and then this has a capacity need during one time frame, then no capacity need, then capacity need again, and then no capacity, and then capacity need again, so that basically the operation is shown longer than it runs on the machine, but has like pseudo interruptions in between. So this is something we decided against. And hence, as we kind of deal with the send ahead quantity information differently than Business Central does, both the VAPS and the VPS can come to different results than standard Business Central. And this is especially the case if the runtime of the receiving operation is shorter than the runtime of the sending ahead operation. And I can show this to you in two quick examples. I think they're pretty easy. So let's assume we have a production order with a quantity of 100, and we have two operations on two different machine centers, and the first operation takes 10 minutes per unit, and we say, okay, we can send ahead lots of 10. So after 10 units are produced, we can start producing on the second machine, and here takes 15 minutes. So this case is pretty easy, right? You start to produce on machine center 1, and as soon as 10 are done here, you can start with the production on machine center 2, and here it takes longer. So here we have 10 minutes per piece. Here we have 15 minutes per piece. So your finish way past this is finished. So this is like the easy case, and this is exactly how our send ahead quantity mechanism works. Then we have the opposite case. So let's assume we have a production order with a quantity of 50. Again, two operations on first machine center, second machine center, but now it takes longer to produce it on the first machine than it is on the second machine, and I made the difference quite big so that we can see this relationally here what happens, and the send ahead quantity again should be 10. So one option would be that you say, okay, I start producing on machine center 1, and machine center 1, all these 50 pieces with 20 minutes or 20 time units per piece. This keeps on continuously running. Then once 10 are done, I can send them to the second machine and start producing on them on the second machine. However, the runtime is quite short, so I will be done here um, at that point of time with those 10, and I don't have the next 10 coming from this machine. So I wait, I do the next 10, I do the next 10, I do the next 10, and then I get both of them. And this is a little bit mirroring what Business Central does. So you have like the machine busy here, not busy here, busy here, not busy here, busy here, not busy here, and then busy here at the end. And we decided against this approach. So this is not how we deal with center head quantity in case the second operation is faster than the first operation. Instead, what we decided to do is to do it like this. So we say there will definitively be those 10 units more or less that needs to get produced here on that machine once I'm finished with this whole quantity. I can also not do all of them here because this cannot finish before this is finished. This is physically not possible because we need to do everything here before we can do the last thing here. So we kind of have the same overlap in the end, but then from here we more or less calculate it backwards to say the operation itself is not yet does not get interrupted. So if you have the case, or if your customer has the case that you work with send ahead, the good news is, and send ahead quantity, the good news is this is supported now both in VAPS and VPS. If the first operation is faster than the second, then the results that you get in VPS and VAPS are more or less the same than you would get in Business Central. If it is the opposite case, then it will be a little bit different. But all what we heard about send ahead and all what we heard about how send ahead is used with our customers, this to us makes much more sense than this, and hence we implement it in that way. So the third, like conceptually bigger thing we developed, and now I switch from the production scheduling products to the jobs and resource scheduling project, is that we provide what we call additional distribution logic for job planning lines. And It is hard to figure out what I mean with this without explanation. So first, let's look how the VJS worked before we shipped the current version. So imagine you have a job planning line and you say, okay, the planning date is the 1st of August. My resource is Peter and the quantity is 40 hours. This is typically how a job planning line looks like. You can give more information, but these are the most important information needed for project planning and for resource scheduling. And this is what we kind of visualize in the VJS. Planning date, 1st of August, my resource is Peter, the quantity is 40 hours. So what Business Central does, like, and this is the standard Business Central, and we can call it distribution logic. It distributes all these 40 hours to this 1st of August. So Business Central itself does not care about what Peter is doing, and it does also not care about Peter's capacity. It just says, okay, if the user said the planning date is the 1st of August and the resource is Peter and the quantity is 40, then we will need Peter on this 1st of August for 40 hours. This is what Business Central does, and this is like the standard Business Central in quotes distribution logic. So what the VJS did until this version is, and we had an own distribution logic, you could literally tell the VJS, hey, please take into account the resource calendar for the respective resource. So if you switch, if this feature, if this functionality, if the VJS job planning line distribution logic feature was switched on, then if Peter has a 40 hours per week calendar, the VJS would distribute these 40 hours according to the calendar. Consequently, if you look at this job planning line in the VJS, you would see a resource allocation bar that would span 5 days, right? So it's 8 hours, so 40 divided by 8 is 5 days. In that regard, with the VJS distribution logic, we treat Peter as fully busy for these 5 days. Okay, so already with the VJS, as you have been knowing it until version 1.10, there were actually two types of distribution logic. The one, the standard Business Central distribution logic, ignoring the calendar of the resource, just saying, okay, if I say 1st of August, Peter 40 hours, then it's 40 hours for Peter on that day. And then the VJS distribution logic, which you could switch on in the product, that says, okay, we look at the calendar and divide this 40 hours by available hours per day based on the calendar and treat the resource as fully busy. So this is how it was before, and this is both options still are valid. However, we added an additional distribution logic. So now there is a third option on how you can schedule your resource when you plan a project. And this follows like a use case that we did not support so far. And we heard customers saying like, okay, I do not want Peter to fully work on that task. Let me just correct this. Sorry for that. So I do not want Peter to work fully on that task, but I want to give him actually time frame in which Peter can perform that specific task. However, I want to limit the amount of time that Peter can spend on this. So we oftentimes heard people in a project savvy business that they said, okay, we have a task. We want to give the employee 3 weeks to complete the task. And in these 3 weeks, this person should work no more than 5 days on that task. So this kind of thinking, like this average utilization of the resource, was something that was unsupported so far by standard business and was also unsupported by the VJS. And this is something we changed now with the new version 1.11. So we now can say, okay, we have a planning date, and this is the 1st of August, and we introduced on job planning line level a new field, which we called the planned end date. So now I can say, I want to give him a time frame. He should work on this from the 1st of August to the 10th of August. The resource is Peter, and I want to work him on this task for 40 hours. So now the result is, if this new distribution logic is switched on, the bar will span these 10 days, and each day the resource is utilized with 4 hours. So we have an equal distribution of the hours over the days that are defined in the time frame between planning date and planned end date. And the planned end date is a new field that comes now if you install a version 1.11 of VJS, or if you update your VJS to version 1.11, then on the job planning line level you will see this new field. and and this, I think, gives a lot of new opportunities for resource scheduling when you're in a project based business, because now you can do this type of average resource planning, or you can say, hey, I want to give him time frame and I want to give him a budget. And with this, I suggest we switch from PowerPoint to Business Central and see what we have, other than a black screen that I have to refresh. Give me a second, please. And let's start with the VJS, because because the information is now fresh. If my environment loads, there it is. So now I'm opening the VJS. And for those who are not familiar with the VJS, I will now just show selected features, or the selected feature. If you're new to it, just let me know. I will share my contact details at the end of this meeting, and then we can definitively give you a demo and introduction to the product. Very happy to do this, but now the purpose of the webinar is not to introduce the product, but the purpose of the webinar is to introduce some new stuff that we built. So let's load all my jobs with all the resources, and you see now I have a visual schedule. I'm in the job view, so I see all my project by their status. And what I also can do is I can look at the same data from the resource point of view, or let's look at this green job. Maybe I expand it from here so that we see what's going on. This is my job. It starts with, and the allocation start with a project leader, which is Mary, for 16 hours. Then it goes to technical office, and I need both John and a not yet assigned resource, and then I need a couple of guys for the field installation, and then I need a project manager. So this is the structure of the product. Everything you see here is a job planning line. So if we look at Mary, then like this is the typical VJS distribution logic as we had it in the past. We have a planned date. This is, or the planning date. This is the 22nd of February. We need Mary, and we need Mary for 16 hours. And because I, under company setup, switched on calculate job planning line duration, this is the kind of the standard VJS logic, the VJS distribution logic. These 16 hours now span 2 days, because Mary is set up as a resource with a 40-hour week, so 8 hours every day. So we use her 8 hours on that Monday, 8 hours on that Tuesday. So now let's look at the same information from a different perspective, and this is the resource perspective. And you see I switched from the one view to the other. Now this is highlighted and it's blinking, so we are looking at this utilization for Mary, right? So now what I want to say is, okay, I need Mary to work on this, but actually she should start here on this Monday and she should be finished on Friday, and then spend these 16 hours on this. So now what I can do is I can on a right, on a double click, I can go to the job planning line and populate the end date. So let me just quickly see. Okay, it goes to the should go to the 22nd of February. So I say I have this on the 22nd of February. Yep, And then I close this and I need to reload this. So I need to fetch data again. And then let's look what is happening to this green box. And now you see a couple of things happening actually. The bar got longer. It spans these 5 days from the beginning, from the plant date, from the planning date to the plant end date. What you also see is now we have this icon here. Let me make this a little bit bigger, the screen. That was too big anyway. Let's go to this green one. There is this icon that shows, okay, this is a bar where we actually have the new distribution logic. So this is something where we have an average utilization of this resource. So we give you a visual indication that this happened. What also happened is you see that these links now turned red because this bar got longer. They didn't get rescheduled, but I can quickly say, just for your information, on the right mouse click scheduled successors, and then they are pushed out again, and the structure of this is okay. Now, if we go and say, okay, let me move this quickly to another resource. So now, first of all, let me quickly move this away so that we have some more time here for Mary in the next week. So now, if we look at this here, and if we open Mary's histogram, there's a capacity utilization. You see, although the bar spans the full day, she has some free capacity. So per day, her capacity is 8, but the total load is only 3.2 because this is like the 16 hours divided into 5 days. So we take this into account with the histogram. We take this also into account with the histogram for the overall resource group. So like now we have an average utilization of Mary. If for some reason now I want to say, okay, actually, whatever, Mary was off sick, or we needed Mary to do some firefighting in another project here on this Monday, Tuesday. And if we say, okay, we want to give her a bit more time to complete on that task, so we will only give her whatever until Tuesday next week with the same quantity, then I can say, hey, adjust the planned end date. So I either could double click here and type in a date here, but I also can do this graphically. I can do this graphically. I say adjust planned end date. And then you see this thing has this red border. And now if I move with the mouse at the end of the bar, you see the mouse cursor changes. And now I can just make it longer. I can say, okay, the new planned end date should be the 2nd of March. Now it's the 1st of March. It didn't completely work out. Let me do this with the 2nd of March. I want to have it 2nd of March. For some reason, 2nd of March is not allowed. I do not know why, but you see that this got longer, and you also see that the dependent job planning lines all got pushed out as this got longer. And if we now look at this, this got updated. So now it's 2.6 hours per day because we have like one day more. And with this interaction that I did, the planned end date is not yet updated, but if I save the VJS, then the planned end date is updated. So this is a big new functionality. I think this opens up a lot of new options in production when doing the project and resource scheduling, because now you can have it. You can either decide if you want to stick with standard Business Central and have like this 16 hours now on one day, or you can say, I want to distribute it. And if you want to distribute it, it looks like the 16 hours looked in the before, Or in addition to this, you can also start populating the planned end date and hence give the resources a time frame in which they can perform a task and give them a budget of the total number of hours they have to get this task done. And then from a resource scheduling perspective, you have an average utilization of the resource, and you can monitor this on resource level with the histogram or on resource group level. So I personally find this pretty cool, and this opens up a lot of new things. So then a quick just to that you show this, you see this on the filter capabilities, and we can add it a filter. We now also have the job task where it previously only was the job, the resource group, and the resource. So now both view and data filter can filter on job tasks. This was also a requirement we got from a couple of customers who have very complex project structures, but where some of some of their tasks are not relevant for scheduling, and they can differentiate by job task number which kind of task they want to see in the schedule in terms of scheduling. And then, like in the other products, we also enhance the search functionality. So now that I'm in the resource view, I can look for a job planning line and a research. So let's look for a job planning line and see what comes up here. And actually now I can search, for example, for a job number, and I can type it in here. So I'm searching for job 190, and that doesn't work. And then I see all my tasks from this job, and then I can select one task. And now you see this is highlighted here. However, what I also could do is, rather than using these fields that we gave, much more powerful is to do it from here. So I say, okay, I want to search for job 190, and then it also populates it populates these table, and then I can say, okay, show me this one here, and then this is that task. The interesting thing is, and this is also true for the VAPS and the VPS, so the search functions now and the search pages, they look now the same. But the good thing is you actually can individualize this page, and every user can individualize. So I can go and say, I want to personalize this, and then I can add fields here, and I can add columns here. So this is pretty cool that this now became personalizable like any other page that you have in Business Central. And that's it with the additional distribution logic and the VJS and a couple of other functions we built. And now let's quickly look at the VAPS. And for that, I'm switching my company actually, so that you see the center head functionality a little bit in action. And now it wants to open the same page that I was on before, which is the VJS. Now let me move to the VAPS. The VPS is built a little bit different, so I need to create a simulation first before I add the visual schedule, so that customers actually can create multiple versions of their schedule. I quickly do this, and also here, if you're not familiar with the VAPS and if you want to get an intro into the product, a demonstration or whatever, then please let me know. I'm happy to schedule it here. Again, this is now to talk a little bit about the new features, and like we had it before, we have search functionality, so we can search on the production order line, and we can search in operation, and in the sales order view, we can also search for sales orders and sales order lines. We recognize the queue time, but we also recognize the center head time, and um, the this is now colored by item. So every so production orders with the same color are production orders for the same items. And you see that I have this purple one here, and this has a center red routing. So the purple one, the routing is pretty easy here. And it mirrors the case that I had before, where I have two operations on one machine center, then on the other. I can send ahead 5 pieces from the first step to the second step, but like the second one runs much longer than the first one. There was the easy case, and then this there's other one here. I think this is the opposite case where line routing. I sent at 10 and the second is faster than the first. So I have these two examples there, and these are new production orders. They are on standby. And so now I have to add them to the schedule, and I can do this manually via drag and drop. I can do it order-wise. So we have different scheduling tools in the VAPS that support you with different scheduling challenges, or I can just say schedule all and take into account alternative machine centers. And then the VAPS iterates through the schedule and adds those production orders to the schedule, taking into account now also the send add functionality. You see this is kept in place as it was before, and so this is the earliest time that this can start after a certain amount of this is finished, but you see there is an overlap. So this link is pointing a little bit to the left-hand side. Likewise, it is here. And if this is now moved for some reason, sorry, I just wanted to move it right. But anyway, then this is moved as well. And now because I moved this got moved. And then this got moved. And here you see the case that I explained before, where the second run is shorter, runs shorter on the second machine than on the first machine. Then we have like the overlap here at the end, but now in theory we could use the machine also for this guy because the machine is free, so it could be utilized, whereas in Business Center with standard algorithm it looks as if it would be busy because this would be produced in separate chunks on this machine. So this is something that we added to the VAPS, and we tested it in a lot of scenarios. So this is working. It works also in combination with the queue time. So and it works similarly on the VPS, so that last webinar in April, I spent a lot of time on the VPS. So now I thought I showed you again the VAPS a bit more. So it works likewise in both products. There is one thing to keep in mind, both for the VAPS and the VPS. So this is a function with the send ahead functionality that kind of now comes to different scheduling results than before, because before we just ignored information. So if you had a routing before that had send ahead quantity, like you have seen it here before. So if you would have had a routing before with some information here, this would have been information that we ignored in the past. So now, as we do no longer ignore it, we come to different scheduling results. So what we don't want to happen is that you or your customers update the product and then get completely different results. So what you need to do if you want to going forward make use of this function, you actually have to switch it on. So under the NETRONIC VAPS setup, there is now the option to consider send ahead. So, and by default, this is switched off because, and the same with the queue time. So those two fields are new on the VAPS setup. By default, they are switched off. And this is because we don't want to give you a different scheduling experience or a different scheduling results just because you updated the product. So, but if you update the product because you want to use this function or want to test this function, then remember you have to switch it on that in the VAPS, the setup time, the send ahead quantity and the queue time get taken into account. And the same is true for the VPS. So just remember to switch this on so that you can make use of the function. And with this, it took me actually a little bit longer than I planned. I showed you what we did, or I told you what we did, and I showed you some of the highlights of what we implemented. I also explained you the thinking behind, and of course, we continue to work on these products and we continue to enhance them. So there is some stuff we are working on in this third quarter. All products, with all products, we look at further enhancing the API to make them even more individualizable. And we plan also to kind of show warning symbols and visual alerts in the table. So if I go quickly back into a visual scheduler, any visual scheduler kind of has three parts. We have this timetable part or timescale part, we have this graphical part, and we have this tabular part here. And what we are currently thinking of designing and discussing is what kind of alerts and what kind of symbols can we show you here to quickly indicate that you need to take care of something that is in this line in the schedule. And this can be true for a view like this, that we show you that there's something on a machine that you need to take care of, or like if we, sorry for that, we also have like something which is the production order view or the sales order view. Like if we go to the sales order view, not sure if I have sales orders. No, there are no sales order or no production orders coming from sales orders in this sample database. But in the production order view, show you symbols here that you know, okay, something is wrong with this production order. I have an issue, so that you more rapidly see where you have a need to take action if you're a production planner. So this is something that we want to bring into all three products. With the VAPS, we have a big development topic that keeps us busy since a while, and that will keep us busy during this quarter. This is a feature that is called sequence dependent setup time. So this is basically scheduling and while scheduling, optimizing for less overall setup times. For both VAPS and VPS, we will look at supporting a better bin code handling when you change things in the schedule, so that then also the bin codes are properly updated. We want to give you a tooltip that shows the downtime reason in downtime areas, and we will add a view filter. And for the VJS, we work on link duration, so that you can say, okay, between the end of this task and the next task, there should be a delay of 7 days, for example. We look at integrating the employee absence table, and we also most likely will do first steps in terms of better handling and better scheduling items within the job planning lines. So although it is summer, and although we are on vacation from time to time, and our people are on vacation from time to time, we keep on being ambitious and we keep on being busy, so that in 3 months from now, we have another session like this, or meet at Directions EMEA, where we currently plan to go, and then can discuss some exciting new stuff. And with this, I see there is a question. Has the VPS the possibility to use a color for each odor? I mean, this is possible in VAPS, but I'm not sure it's possible on VPS. It is not possible in the VPS product, but to my knowledge, it should be possible with the VPS API. So if this is something that you're interested in, then please let me know, and then I get you in contact with one of my colleagues, so that we understand the use case, why you would need this, and then we can also point you either to the respective events and objects that we have to make this happen via the API. And if your use case is not fully supported, then we can also discuss what it would need to take to make these events and objects kind of in a way, or provide them in a way that we can handle your use case. Then there's a question, can VJS consider components that need to be made in-house from the VPS? Yeah, that's a good question. This is definitely possible if you have a reservation on that item. So if you have an item in your project schedule and then make a reservation on this from the production order, then there is a way that we can take this into account in the VPS. I will have to look actually how this works from the VPS to the VJS, but I will provide. So I'm not 100% sure. I know that we kind of take this reservation into account in the VPS. I'm currently not sure how this shows in the VJS, but I will check this and let you know afterwards. Then there is the next question. Do you have a release date for the feature warning symbols, visual alerts? Well, yeah, end of this quarter. So, like we plan to finish the release like in the last week of September, so that we can send it then to Microsoft for App Store's approval. And so typically they need a couple of days. So beginning of October, everything should be available on App Source. And this is also then the moment of time that we upload this into our partner portal for all partners and customers. And then I see that Jacobo, you want to have contact to somebody about the VPS colors. I definitely will make sure that we get in contact to you so that we can look at your use case and either provide help or provide like a guidance as to when we would support this. I definitely make sure that we reach out to you. And with this, there's another question. Are you thinking about a link between capable to promise function in sales order and VAPS? This is something we also started looking at. However, I think the capable to promise function in the sales order does not take into account the capacity, so it's a bit. My view on this is it's a little bit weak. So what we were thinking of, but this is also like in a consideration phase, is that once we have an item as production order scheduled with the VAPS, then we know the finish date for this and that we give this information back to the sales order. So this is not exactly what you're requesting with the capable to promise function. But this would go into the same direction. So if you like, and I would be really interested to, so we can set up a call maybe with you and with our CTO, so that we can also discuss, Fabio, your case with the CTP function and your ideas behind, and then see if and how we can take this on our roadmap. I definitively like the idea of integrating like sales orders and the production scheduling, but I'm not 100% sure what the best way is. And so we started with considerations in this direction. And if you are happy to share your thoughts with us in a separate meeting, then I'm very happy to be part of this. Then the last question is, what about VSS? Will there be a Business Central version or only NAV? So as of now, we have no plans to bring the VSS from NAV to Business Central. It is a product that is available for Dynamics NAV, but from all our schedulers, it was the one which brought us by far the lowest business. although it took a lot of investment, so we decided not to bring over the VSS for the foreseeable future from NAV to Business Central. However, what we have for Business Central, which we didn't have for NAV, is the visual scheduling and in development toolbox. So we actually have a tool kit that would allow you to build a visual service scheduler for your customers if this would be something you would like to consider. We have a ready to use toolbox with an AL API that lets you quite efficiently develop visual planning boards. And this toolbox can be integrated with any table that you want. So it could be used to build a rental scheduler, a service scheduler, a whatever scheduler. So this could be an option, but we as a company decided to focus on production scheduling and jobs and resource scheduling. So now I see no more questions at the moment. So, and if there are no more questions, then we did this part. I would like to thank you very much for your attention. I have my fingers crossed for you and your families and your colleagues that you continue to stay safe and healthy. And here are my contact details. Here is my LinkedIn profile. Please, please, please reach out if you have a question, if you have a use case to discuss, if you have a sales case where you need support, if you're a customer and if you're unsure if your products are right. The only reason why I had you muted on this webinar is due to the background noise issue. I am really personally, as owner of this company, driving what we're doing for Business Central, and I'm really, really interested about your case and your ideas. So if you have something to share, or if you have a question, if you have an idea, please reach out to me, and then we get on the call and we discuss it. Our products only can live and become better with your ideas and with your thoughts. And with this, thank you very much for today, and see you soon in one of our next webinars. Bye bye.